the relief is something I've never really experienced in my life. From all worry and for months and years of worrying, to the relief is something I can't. It's so hard to put into words, and it's not what I thought it would be. That's the thing, you know. I have, for all those months, I was like, what's going to happen? How am I going to?
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Director First podcast. I've been asked to come on again by all my fans and followers. They said they wanted to repeat Sean to come back on. So again, we're having a chat with one of the recent clients of ours. Again, just to understand what happened with liquidation, what it was like, what they were going through, and how he feels now. Alex, thank you so much, mate, for joining us, pal.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's my pleasure. Listen, Alex, could you just introduce briefly, you know, a bit about yourself, about the business before liquidation as well, please, mate?
Yeah, of course. So I started my business in 2012, and it was moderately small, and it kind of just was kind of a little bit of a side thing, really, while I just did, you know, my normal 9 to 5, and then through COVID it took off, which was great because it was online based. Of course, like loads of companies did well through COVID. It grew quite quick, but there were so many pitfalls with that, almost over trading, and just, you know, you work so hard for years and years, and then it balloons up. So I found, like, you know, I found out that, like, I had to learn so much in such a short amount of time after having the business for like 10 years before that. So yeah, I've kind of, it's been like the last couple of years have been a real roller coaster, really, because I've had some highs of, like, during the COVID and it doing well, and then the lows of what ultimately ended up with. But yeah, it's kind of, it's definitely been a roller coaster by no short imagination.
Definitely. And listen, like just to go to, do you know when you first realised that you thought, you know, my business, I might need to look at it to go down this avenue? Well, how was you feeling then, mate?
Oh God, do you know what? I think looking back now, I didn't know it was on the, I knew it was on the cards for probably a year or 18 months before I really thought enough's enough now.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you put 10 years into your livelihood, and you don't want to give it up. You don't want to, you know, it's everything, you know, 15 hours a day for 10 years. It's the last thing you want to do. So I found myself in denial, really, for kind of probably a year when it was, you know, starting to go bad. And I was kind of in a bit of a panic mode, really, like, you know, taking out loans here and there and trying to just rob Peter to pay Paul. And it, you know, when you're in that zone, there's no future, really. And that's, so it kind of come to a point where I think it was last summer was kind of the point where I was like, right, I'm gonna get this big loan. I had to put a personal guarantee on. To give it kind of a final chance. And then a few months later, I was just like, we're heading back into this same position. It really didn't help. But obviously I was in contact with you guys throughout that process. And, you know, initially it was kind of you know, the support I got wasn't necessarily to, like, right, let's chuck you into liquidation. It was like, what's happening in your, not, you know, what's happening in the business? Is it right for you at this time? Could you do that? So it was kind of like probably a year, 18 months, the whole process, where I kind of thought, you know, enough. But I think so many things were happening personally, you know, with my marriage, my kids, my relationships, that I kind of knew outside of my business life, this was tearing up my whole life. So it kind of came to a point now where I thought, well, I've come to a lot of sad points, unfortunately, but I just thought this business, as much as I love it and as much as I put everything into it, it cannot take any more of me. Like, I've lost so much of myself, and not just financially, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've lost so much of myself that I can't do this anymore. This is not right for my family. This is not right for me.
Yeah.
And it unfortunately boiled up into some series of personal moments that I'll never want to relive. So yeah, it kind of happened gradually, but when you know it's happening, it's, you know, it happens quick. It comes together quick.
Just
You
creeped
know,
up on it and bang, it hits you on it.
like, just like, you know, I'm in this maze and there's like 500 moves to try and get out, and it's just, you know, you have to accept fate, and I did, thankfully.
But I mean, listen, mate, we going back in. Obviously, I remember first speaking to you many months ago, mate, and just to add on to what you've just said, to people that are going to be watching this, to where we are now, to where you are now, mate, to how we speak now. You just look back to how it first was, mate. You've done amazing.
Yeah,
You really have, mate.
I know, mate. It really is you know, it's kind of quite new. The liquidation for me is only kind of the final stages of it's going through, like, you know, when I'm now into liquidation, and it's the relief is something I've never really experienced in my life. From all worry and what for months and years of worrying, to the relief is something I can't. It's so hard to put into words, and it's not what I thought it would be. That's the thing, you know. I have, for all those months, I was like, what's going to happen? How am I going to? Okay, get through liquidation. What happens after that? Like, do I go and have to get a 9 to 5 job? Can I carry on, or can I trade? You know, can I open up a new business? There's so many. There's so many things that, you know, you're so unsure about.
Head's clouded, isn't it?
Yeah, and thankfully, I mean, you guys were there every step of the way to say, you know, what you can and cannot do very explicitly along the way, which was great, because when you're told the things you can do after liquidation, you, as a business person, your brain starts thinking, you're like, okay, so I can do that. But in the moment, you go right to the worst position. You're like, I can't run.
Of course you do,
and you just, your mind just becomes so overrun with thoughts, mainly at like 2 o'clock in the morning when you can't sleep through work. But knowing now where I am is, oh God, it's, you know, it's a million miles. You know, I was down. I was down, and, you know, I was very close to taking my own life, and I've never even experienced that in my life at all. So it was such a shock to have to go through those emotions, and, you know, so I was walking, like, picking up the kids from school on the school run, and people were like, hello, like talking to my wife and friends. We saw Alex, like, you know, he don't, what's wrong with him? He's all the colours out of his face. It absolutely drains you. It really drains you, and it's a culmination of the business failing, and then the process, which is not as, you know, it's so as tough as it is. It's a process that you have hope with, because you know you can get through it. But from then to now, a million miles, a different world away, mate.
You should be very proud, mate, of where you are now to where you was. You know.
Thank you, mate.
But you know, it's just to touch on, obviously, what you said. There'd be a lot of directors who could be feeling very similar to how you was. Reach out and talk to somebody who deals with, you know, it can be us, it can be anybody else, but just please talk to somebody.
Definitely. I mean, I started counselling. I've never done counselling in my life, but I started that in September, when I really was, probably, you know, August, September last year, my lowest points. And I just thought, well, my wife actually was like, you've just got to do this to save our family. And a lot of the work we do around that, and I know is around, you know, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Businesses fail. And when I was, you know, when I was started, I was like, I can't believe this. How has this happened? How am I, after all this hard work? It's once you can accept it and know, that it's not your fault. There's so many external factors. It becomes just a little bit hard, easier to swallow. And then week by week, especially with the liquidation going through, and the closer and closer you get through the whole process, it saved my life. And anyone watching, from who was in my position, and I'm sure you'll agree, Chris, that
Sean, stop doing that.
Okay. You're both saved on my phone. I've got C word and S, but I'm blind, you see, so they're all like squiggles on my WhatsApp. Sorry, I've completely lost my track. Go on, ask the question.
Well, to be fair, right, and for people who are watching this, me and Alex had a bit of a chat before we jumped on him. We said, right, come on, we'll jump on and no doubt we'll start talking about something, and then we'll just go off track like we normally do. It can be. We've got WhatsApp messages between ourselves saying, this is the process, and then 2 minutes later, how are Arsenal doing this week? North End have drawn at weekend.
And looking back, I didn't really see it at the time, mate. I didn't see, like, you knowing there's someone there for through what is a very serious process, and you have to be serious. And we know, I know, obviously you follow everything to the letter, and the advice you've given spot on. But looking back, and I've spent a couple of evenings, if I scroll back through messages, and the main thing for me in that point was, what I found is you'd have, because it was over such a long time, you'd have moments where you reconcile everything and you say, right, it's okay. We've covered X, Y, and Z. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to be all right here. But then what I found happens is so many things come in that completely knock you off course, things that you don't even think of or discuss, and then you feel like you're back to square one. And most of the time they would happen for me either in the middle of the night or at the end of a week when I knew I might have a couple of hours to myself. So having that contact with you outside really, looking back, I didn't really see it at the time. I kind of maybe just took it for granted, but looking back, I just think, oh my God, like, just for someone to say, I've got this concern, like, I didn't think of this. Could this put a spanner? And little things like just getting a message back from you, like, not to, on a Friday night, for example, like, no, we already talked. A lot of the things we might have talked about, but because you're so stressed and you're going through everything, you might have forgotten. You're almost, it's just like a soothing, this is fine. We're going to follow the process. We're going to do what we need to do, what's right for you and right for the creditors, but that's fine. And looking back, mate, that was one of the things where I just thought, God, I didn't see it at the time, but just thank you. Because I don't think might not have got that from elsewhere. There's probably other great companies out there that do it, but having that personal touch really helped me through some really dark spaces. So thank you. I really, really mean that.
It's my pleasure, mate. I mean, listen, Chris has given me a list of questions that I have to follow. And that's gone out the window, mate. It's gone complete because we've answered half of them already. Okay. So, our bit, mate, just what we'll do for it, and we'll always help anybody we can, right? It is that's what we're here to do. We're here to give advice, to give you tailor, and to just go, right, no, look at it this way. We don't beat around the bush. We're like, no, do it like this. And with yourself, mate, when we first originally started speaking, it's like, right, because your mind was so clouded by, and you can imagine, mate. I mean, I've never been in that position myself, but I could see, how your mind was. This. And it's just about breaking it all down and going, right, let's put it into sections. Let's deal with this. Let's deal with this. Let's deal with this. And to look again, mate, and I know I've said it before, but to look at you now and to speak to you now, great to see, mate. It really is.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously WhatsApping each other, going only fools and horses, sending a picture of this thing, and then you just naming the scene straight away and what was going to happen next is brilliant.
Sometimes you just need that just to take you out of a really stressful situation, because I've got a thing where, you know, I've kind of always had it, you know, it's such a high stressful moment, and just those little bits where you can just feel a little bit normal. And that's what I got from you is, you know, you've got to do what you've got to do, but you really just take care. Just, you know, you don't, you know, it's, you obviously it's great for business and things, but there's that care element that is more, is you can't fake that for months on end just to get a bit of business. It ain't that. It is someone who's like, I know obviously Chris has gone through it, he mentioned, you know, in the past, but when someone who knows what you're going through, or who see it probably elsewhere, you know, every other day with other clients, it's just that care, and and in someone's real darkest days, just having that just makes so much difference, mate. It really, really does. But I think we started talking, I think it was last May, really, when it had a bit of a dip, and I think I remember saying, like, oh, I'm about to sign this big loan, this big like 200 grand loan with a personal guarantee. And I remember you saying, actually, at the time, I remember you going, don't do that. Let's just have and of course the arrogant, you know, it's going to be all right, Tucko. I didn't listen. The one time I didn't listen to you was the one time it landed me in the pit. So I will listen to you from now on, I promise. But even at the time, even in that, I was like, I should have listened to every bit. And it probably, when you're in that panic mode, you know, even my mom and, you know, other people in my life I hold dearly, they're saying things like this. Are you sure this is right? But because you're so like, oh my God, this business needs to survive because X, Y, and Z, and you've got 3 girls who are relying on, they've got kids. You're in this panic zone, and
of course, mate. Yeah.
When someone can talk to you face to face or over a Zoom and break it down and say, right, what is the worst that's going to happen? When you're in that zone, you just need someone really going back to basics, laying it out as it is, and then your mind becomes clear, and it's good. And you know, from now, from like I say, from where I am now to back then is a million miles. And of course, there's my journey to go. I've got things I need to sort out, like mainly like that, my big loan and things like that. But again, I know you're working. And whatever obstacles come, I've overcome it, and it's really is thanks to you. So really, really thank you, mate. Like, from my family, up from my kids, my mum, they've all got me back, mate, because they've good. I had like 2 years of really just shutting myself off from everyone. And now my mum FaceTimes me, and it's like, you're smiling again. I've got my kids on my lap, where before, you know, I'd want to just get home and go into a room and either half curl up in a ball and half think of things to try and save my business. And I know that with other directors out, I know there's other directors out there, probably hundreds or thousands, who are where I was 6-9 months ago. And I'd say, don't make the mistakes I did, and do the things, but also do the right things that I did, and care for yourself. You've got to look after yourself in this, and look after your kids. You got to.
You're mate. If I could give you a hug now, I would, mate.
Next time, mate, we will.
We've already spoke about this, haven't we? We've already spoke about meeting up. 1,000,000%, mate. It's definitely a good friendship
in the right way as well. And once you've gone through something in the zone, you close yourself off a lot. But I always something got through. I just thought, I know this is going to be right. I remember thinking to myself, like, the day's going to turn into night, and then the sun's going to come up, and that's really. I remember thinking that for probably 3 or 4 months, where I was like, I've just got to get through this one day. I've just got to get through. And then as soon as the kind of the liquidation, I was like, right, it's got to happen. Though everything just got a little bit easier and then a little bit easier. And up to the final point where you go, it's the best thing I've ever done. And I've spoke to people around locally because everyone's having a hard time, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I spoke to a friend's dad who's gone through it similar time to me. His was a bit more complex, and he's got a fresh start, and you can see him just brighten up, and you think, I have all that guilt and all those emotions has just gone, and just seeing it, it's so nice to share stories. And if I can help 5 people who hear this, 5 people who go, I promise you, whatever the fear, whatever things you think you might have done or done wrong, any worry. I was in the darkest of places. There was problems. I couldn't even put them onto an Excel, like problem after problem for months after month. I know if I can get through that, anyone can. Anyone.
Mate, your story. There'll be directors out there watching this now, right? Who, and you're right, mate. There were hundreds of thousands that would be going through similar, and I guarantee, mate, your story will definitely it'll give them a bit of hope, 1,000,000%.
Yeah,
and a bit of courage to pick the phone up, to speak to whoever, and just to start taking advice.
Mate, the one thing I was like, I want to say, if people are seeing it, and like the one thing I wish someone had really drummed in is, when it's going down and it's going down, the automatic thing is to go, right, let's just go and borrow some money and let's do a little short term. Just whack my house on the line, like just go in for it, like it will all be fine. If anyone's watching that and in that position, or they're about to sign on a 50 grand, 100 grand loan with please look at why you're having to borrow that money, because there's a reason why you're having to look at that. And I'm no financial advisor. I'm just a bloke who's run a business for a few years. There's a reason why you're having to do that. And if you're on the cusp of doing it to buy yourself some time, please do not, because it is not worth it. And nothing is worth the family home you built, your assets personally that you've built up over years, not your children's future, all these things that I've kind of essentially put on the line, and I don't want anyone to just think, oh, that'll be a quick fix. Please don't, because out of panic or out of anything, be open, speak, be thorough with where your business is at and the options and everything's out there. You'll look back and go, thank God. I wish that's what I would have done. But
good advice, mate. It is stop.
Yeah.
And stop and think.
Yeah.
Advice. You're right, mate.
Once you're in that, you got that's a whole new. Once you're on personal, mate, you're on a whole new level, really, because obviously, obviously you're limited, as much, as long as you don't take out massive, overdrawn directors loans, you're limited is kind of, there. But as soon as you cross that barrier and like, I've got to I'll take out some money to cover me more when you shouldn't be taking money, or, taking out loans, if it fails, I'll just cover it. As soon as you're in that zone and you're just in that, you've got to stop.
You're in a hole, aren't you, mate? Yeah.
You're in a hole, and you've just got to stop and go, I need help. And if you're brave enough to say, I need help, it's there, and it will be the best thing you ever did. I promise you, absolutely, 100% promise.
How did you? Obviously, you're a bit further south to us, aren't you, mate?
Yeah.
How did you come across us? How did you find us at the time?
I think, do you know what? I was thinking this the other day. I think it was an Instagram video with Chris on it.
Yeah.
I think I saw it, and I saw it for quite a while before I acted upon it. because obviously in that stage I was like, no, you're in denial. You're like, no, I don't need that. But I do remember seeing a video from Chris, and it was just short little tips, really. I don't really go on Instagram that much. I'm not on it all the time. So almost, it's almost fate, really, that I've come across it or something. And I remember seeing it, and it was just little snippets of information that ultimately was like, right, I need a bit of help here. And these guys they know what they're talking about, but they also seem like they're a lot human. I went to see my accountant, really, who's a great guy. And although he doesn't handle liquidations or anything, he sent me like a couple of, links and stuff of people that do, but it was all, it all seemed so like, oh my God, where do I even start on this? And it almost seemed even more stressful than all the stress you're going through. So I think when I initially talked to you, I thought, excuse me, I just remember thinking, oh my God, someone's telling me something in a language that I can just understand and digest. And that was a massive thing for me as well, looking back, like, because I'm not as focused I am on my business outside. I'm not really, like, I don't take a lot of notice outside. So when something completely throws me a curveball, I often just go, no, I'm not interested in that. But knowing that just you were there to answer, just as if we were in a pub, or as if we were, met at a shop, was just something. Just to break it down a little bit, and that meant so much, mate. So I know I keep avoiding your questions and just coming back to saying thank you. But
thank me as much as you want on this.
How big's your head? You're gonna have to. I think we're gonna need one of those widescreen cameras, aren't we?
A much bigger laptop, mate. But obviously, what made you decide to work with us? I mean, you probably answered these questions on it, but what were the defining bit where you thought, do you know what?
Okay, so
these guys.
Obviously, I spoke to you, I think, in the May, then took out a big loan to give it another start. And then it was the August came. The August came, and I was very down. And I was, like I said, I was very suicidal. And I'll go deep in my emotions because I don't care, because I'm a modern day bloke. I was on the cusp of taking my own life. And something just stopped. I had a moment, and it didn't happen, thankfully. And the very next morning, I was like, I need to go and see that. I need that man. You just got to get me out of this. You did, mate. So thank you. And I think it was that personal touch that I'd experienced a few months earlier that was like, who am I going to go to in my darkest hour to really give me another chance? And it was you. And it was just how personable and welcoming and friendly and accepting you were of someone who was really vulnerable. So if there's people out there who are vulnerable, I really hope they just call you. They really do. I really, really do.
See what this call is not like we said it was going to go. You nearly having me in tears now, mate.
There's still sad times, mate, because you're still processing everything, but they're almost. There's so much happiness now that it's like a double-edged sword, because you think back and you think, oh my God, how did I let myself get into that position? But then you also I look at where I am now, and it's like, thank God, it's just, I don't wish it on anyone, because I wish everyone would have happy, healthy businesses and wouldn't have to do this. But for people who it's forced upon them, the feeling that I have now is, if you could bottle it and give it to everyone who's in that 6 months before, all you'd need is a sip, and you'd go, I'm gunning for that. I'm getting my head down, and I'm getting through that 3 months or however long it is, because it's worth it.
You're the way we still speak quite a lot now, don't we, mate? What you're doing now, mate. Honestly, mate, you should be so proud of yourself. And obviously you've got your she were your little ones and stuff like that, and you know that is when you text me, it was Christmas and stuff like that. You're spending Christmas with, you know, and see, I don't know if you're gonna thank me for announcing this, mate, but obviously Alex has welcomed a little one, you know, a few months old now. For some reason, he didn't call the baby Sean, which I am still a bit annoyed at you for.
She's got your head, though. She's got your head.
Well, this one.
And your glasses, too.
And my glasses as well. I've got a very shiny head because I shaved my head last night and I used the cream that you sent me. And it goes all shiny.
Man, you've got to have you looking your best for these calls, haven't I?
Exactly, my beard's all done for you and that, yeah.
She was born in last October, and it was kind of all going through then. So I was in a really emotional, happy moment. I was still like quite stressed, but since kind of everything was done my side, and that weight come off my shoulders, and I knew it wasn't up to me anymore. Just to, you know, just cuddling her over Christmas, mate, and even my middle two of 7 and 5, so they're in like prime age where they need their dad, whether it's playing board games or, you know, just having a laugh. And I was so detached from them for months and months and months that just this thought, like, we went out on Christmas Eve. I think I texted you on Christmas Eve, like, I'm just having a little meal with my family, and I'm not just asking questions. I'm just talking to my wife. I'm asking questions, but I've got the capacity to take in what's coming back, whether they're asking for something, and that is because when you're in that zone of what you go through, you just shut off. And I know that I'm sure there'll be people. I think there'll be directors watching this going, "I do that." My wife asked what I'm doing for. Like, I know my wife was doing it. She was like, "You're not even listening to what I'm saying, are you?" And I'm like, I can't. You're so consumed with everything that you nothing goes in, because that is all you think about. How am I going to get through this? So it's great when she's gone through the liquid. You know, it's a lovely feeling. But also, there's so many little things, like, you know, going for a meal on Christmas Eve, being able to do my homework with my little boy and take it in, and being like, all those little tiny bits you can't put a price on. Honestly, mate, you can't put a price on it. So yeah. Oh, it's just
you've got yours back. You know, I remember you texting me now, and it was just nice to hear. You know, you just back to being. I mean, I had the same with. I've got a little girl, 11, and you know, like, I'll have my nails done. It's just stuff like that. It'd be the same with you, mate. You know, you like you say, you're doing your homework or whatever with your lad and that. And when your mind's clouded with so much stuff, you don't know you're doing it. You don't do it intentionally, but you just mind's on something else, isn't it? And now you're back, and
And do you know what the best? You know, there's so many lovely things that's happening personally, and I don't know whether a lot of people talk about it, but the aftermath, after liquidation as well, because I was so fearful, like, you know, all these customers I've built up, I was so fearful that I couldn't, it was just the end, like all this hard work I've done. And I knew it was the end in terms of the business as it was, the employees, the suppliers, everything like that. But also, like, albeit my wife, we're carrying on as a family now. And, you know, the business is nowhere near as big as it was a year ago, but we're making more. We're actually making money now, which is fantastic. But if you don't have to give, you know, liquidation, I've found out you don't have to give it all. You don't have to give, like, completely start your whole life again. As long as you've got that determination, you know, there's nothing wrong with going, right, okay, so why don't we get a little shop somewhere else and buy a few bits in and see if, you know what I mean? It's not the end at all. It's you know, it's almost a brand new begin, brand new
start, mate. Yeah, new start for you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of directors that's how directors are born, and, you know, we're entrepreneurs. I hate that word, but like, we're your mind's always thinking, how can I make some money, and when you take that ability away from the director, it's like, okay, that's a panic mode, right? I don't want to do that, so I won't do. And if that's linked to liquidation, you just end up avoiding the subject, don't you? But to know once you go through it, that it doesn't have to be the end. Of course, it's the end of what you've built because your business is gone. But what's to stop you opening on that day after liquidation and going, right, what am I going to do? Like as I did, what am I going to do now? Right, okay, we can. There's your mind's always going to think of new things because that's what you are as a director, Yeah. So it's not the end. It's just sounds really cringy. It's not the end. It's just a fresh start, really.
But it is, mate. You bang on with that. It is a fresh start for you.
Yeah.
Just to reclaim it, and start again.
Yeah. And there's so much beauty in doing that. Honestly, you almost get to go, well, what went completely wrong? Let's not do that again. And then I'm finding now, a couple of weeks in, like after Christmas, and I'm like, hang on a minute, all I'm doing is just not doing what I did before, and it's going all right. So yeah, it's just.
You're right, yeah.
Yeah. So
you learn loads, don't you? Learn a lot, mate.
Yeah, but
do you know, like looking back on it now, is there anything that you would have done different?
I wouldn't have got that loan out. Absolutely not. I was so guilty with the amount of money that we owed creditors that in my head I was like, I don't care. I'll just lose my house. If the business goes down, I'll just lose my house. At least I'll only owe my creditors like 200 grand instead of 400 grand. But looking back of what happened since then, it was completely the wrong thing to have done. I put my kids' family on, I put their bedrooms and their ceiling and their roof, everything I built for 15 years and paid for, I put that on the line. So I wouldn't have done that. I would not have got me, that big loan out. Would I have done anything else different? Bloody hell, that's a good one. Yeah, I'd have been a little bit tougher in terms of a lot of the things that drove me to not closing probably sooner than I should have and not got loans or credit cards and all this is I've got a lot of girls. Well, had a lot of girls who worked for me, and they've got like families and kids, and some of them are on their own and stuff. And I felt I was quite a lot in my head. I was like, I can't let these girls down. I can't let, they're going to lose all their jobs. That can't happen. There were so many can'ts that you put yourself to the back of the queue, which as selfish as it might sound now, hopefully it doesn't, but I wish I'd have just looked after and cared for myself a little bit more during it and my family, not made myself so vulnerable. Sorry, mate, my laptop's pinging. Yeah, I would have just been a little bit more caring towards yourself, because you don't, when you're in the panic mode, if you're, most people are good, decent people. You think about these things. Can I let 6 people or 12 or 15? Can I let them go? No, I can't. I can't let them down. But you really, when you're going through that, I wouldn't have took the loan out, and I would have just took it back to basics and cared about yourself, because they're going getting offer jobs. Yeah, the world still spins for them, but in that moment, don't think that. You're like, I've got to just, I've got to keep going for them. I can't. I would have been a bit more selfish, as that would,
I get it. No, I get it. And do you know, like the process of liquidation? From like, to sum it up, like from start, middle to where you are now.
Yeah.
How did you find it? How did you actually? Because there's a lot of talk about liquidation, isn't there? And a lot of. How was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, at the start, you're in that denial phase, and then when it's kicking off, the start bit, I found, I think I was speaking to Nadina in your office.
Nadina, yeah.
Oh, just absolute, just gold dust. Like the forms are there, and initially you're like, where do I even start? But you do start, and you just take your time. It might take a few days to get all your credit information together, your bank. It does, but it rolls off. And so that initial stage was like, okay, this is intense, but it's got to be done. But she was there like every step. If I was like, oh, I don't know what to put for that, like, oh, I can't, that bank's closed down. Like, how am I going to know what was in that? But like, just little things, just pinging an email and then it's done. So that first few days were like a bit intense. But looking back, I'm like, thank God I did it. Thank God. You don't remember the intense bit. And kind of everything went quiet a little bit because obviously you do your thing in the background of whatever you need to do, and on the legal aspect of things. And then you have kind of a lull of a few weeks, kind of where whilst creditors are being notified, you get obviously your 21 days relief. Where creditors, because I was getting chased left, right, and centre, mate. I was just batting balls out the park like you wouldn't believe it, mate. I was like, but I think they're giving me like my own like personal hotspot on like control accounts. Dial 2 to speak to me. So, but yeah, so I had that kind of 21-day grace period, which I needed looking back, because that was the time I used really to think, right, the business is gone. What am I going to do after this now? Like, I'm going to build, like in my case, I built a new website. I built a new brand. That 21 days for me was brilliant because I could think again, because I was so bored all that crap. I was like, and it was exciting because I knew if I was someone was chasing me for 10 grand, I was like, right, well, there you go. I'll pass it on. Here's my 21 days now. After everything I've gone through, I've earned this. I've earned this time to rethink of where I'm going to go forward. So that came. And then obviously the creditors, we got given a creditors meeting date. Which was a couple of weeks later after, your 21 days. That was quite daunting for me because I'm not a very confrontational person. I've always felt like quite bad about leaving credit, especially the small, firms of, leaving them in the shit, basically, So that was quite a daunting feeling for me, because you obviously have to explain what went wrong, which is fine. But then going into that, like, oh my God, I've got to face people here. I've got to, they're going to ask what happened. And because, I'm a nice person. You don't want to admit things just didn't work out. So that was quite a heavy burden. As it turned out, absolutely smooth. None of my creditors even bothered to join in. So I'd given them all this emotion for like 2 or 3 weeks, like building up to this creditors meeting. No one joined. So I was like, okay. So I was like, okay.
You tell there's a chance of that. There's a chance.
I should have listened. Again, I should have listened to you, and I didn't. But and then obviously once that creditors meeting gets date, it's lovely because you get that. What is it? 11:59 on that night, you're in liquidation. And then you can see the light at the tunnel. And as soon as you have that, you just want to get your head down and just keep going for it. And once it finished, and was told, you're in liquidation now, and you've done all the process, you forget about all the pain. You like all this, the start of it, and all. You forget about it because you've done it. And secretly, the liquidation process, how long does it normally take the average person from when they kind of sign to do it? Was it like 6-8 weeks, something like that, maybe longer?
Do you know, that's a question a lot of directors at the moment are asking, how long is the process? And to answer it, it's as long as the director wants to take it. It's a case of getting all the info in, making sure this is right for the director. The main thing is not rushing into anything. Sit down.
Exactly.
But
I think, so I think looking back now, I'm like, it was at some points it was quite intense, that 6 or 7 weeks, whatever it was for me. Compared to what I'd been through the last 18 months, that was just like the tip of the iceberg. It was nothing, because it's intense in some ways. You've got to get your forms and everything together, but out. Do you know what I mean? You're getting it. It's like having it's like having a messy room in your house that you're shutting, and all the rest of your house is fine, but you just keep shutting the door, and you're shutting the door, and then eventually you go in and you go, oh, this is naff. And the first day or two is like, oh God, and then after a week you're like, oh my God, out. Thank God, thank God I've done it. Like, how much better do you feel for doing it? Because don't. Another bit of advice really is just, you said what advice would you have, or maybe you did. Maybe I answered the question, but
what? That was my next question. What advice would you give to directors now?
don't bury your head in the sand, because that's the worst thing you could do. When I had what is it like? People asking money through the courts and everything that you just couldn't pay. Don't bury your head, because it's just going to get worse for you mainly. And I don't mean financially, because once the business is gone, it's gone. But you're going to put yourself on such a mental high, like high and low roller coaster, where you forget about it for 10 minutes, and then you're like, oh. And then you archive it in your email. You don't respond, or you just delete the email. By doing that, you're just going to throw yourself on this roller coaster where you really don't need to. You really, really don't need to. I think I think I'd say that to a lot of people watching, because I bet there'll be people there going, oh no, I've got 12 days to respond to a CCJ, or I've got 24 grand, and they're calling, like my reps calling me every couple of days. The accounts are asking where the money is. It's going to be left, right, and centre. It just happens. But as soon as you take action and you go, right, this is happening, and you've got someone, you on the other end of the phone to say, okay, with that, I had things with certain suppliers, and I was like, well, is this what they're going to do? They're threatening this and they're threatening that. Just someone being able to phone and say, and even though you probably know it, because you say that at the start, your brain just flips into panic mode, doesn't it? So just having someone just to break it down on the other end of the phone and just go, okay, well, we knew this was going to happen. It's part of the process. The debts are going to get chased, but we're here to cover that. And the cover, that layer of support really just gives you that, makes you that bit braver to go, I'm just going to sort this out. Once you sort it out, it's like, I can't believe a bit of advice is don't put it off, because what you're waiting for, things ain't going to get better. There's a reason why you're having to even explore liquidation. Something really crazy happens, like you get a new contract or something, or there's a reason why you're even having to explore it. So don't. When I say don't put it off, I don't mean jump into something. I'm not, just.
Yeah, no, you're right, mate. Yeah.
But there's advice out there, and I think anyone decent, like you guys and other people out there, anyone decent will say, is it right for you? And if it is right for you, they'll look at your figures. Like I think Chris, we tallied everything up. Like, the business owes this, it does this each month. It really like basic, kind of basic, but and then going, right, this ain't gonna work. Let's fix this now. So just soak in every bit of support you can get as well, and give yourself a break. I would say another bit of advice: give yourself a break. No, I set up my business 12 years ago. I started selling makeup out of my mum's garage. I didn't set up my business to leave creditors with like 400 grand a day or whatever it was in the end. I didn't go out intentionally to do that. You don't, a 21-year-old sitting out in a garage trying to sell some stuff on eBay or an early version of like Magento website. You don't think, oh, I'm going to do this for 12 years and then sod everyone off for a quarter of a minute. It's not, it's not how it can just happen. So if it's happening to you, accept it and get the support, and talk to your family, talk to people close to you, talk to people who love you. That's the thing. I was really fortunate to have people who want the best for you. They want you to stay on this planet, and if you're feeling down or pick up just a 5-minute phone call can just reset your mind. And you can get through it. You built a business. If you've built a business, like in my case, any director out there, you built a business. If you can do that, if it does come down to it and you do need to go through liquidation, you can do liquidation. I promise you 100%. It's, as challenging it is, it's just you can do it.
Just breaking stuff down, but just to touch on what you just said there, mate, because and it is a big thing at the moment with obviously how you felt as well, mate. If there are directors out there that are feeling exactly how you felt a couple of months ago, mate, people out there to talk to. You can, so many people, friends, family. Sometimes you find that you can't speak to anybody because you're feeling the way that you're feeling. But there's so many people out there that you can talk to, even if it's going to Google, or chats where you can text.
Yeah, and it's hard, isn't it? I guess I found with being the owner of the business, you kind of it's in your mindset you want the business to run that way, and it's very hard to, when you're going through the liquidation process, to accept talk, because directors in their own right are very you're focused on that, nothing, you're going on that. So when you do need help, I found, I've spent 12 years my way or the highway sort of thing. I built the business as it is. You're so focused on that's how it's going to be that when you're vulnerable, it's a really weird situation to then go, I need help. I need, like, Mum, can I pick up the phone? I'm not feeling good. You're so strong for your family, especially, you try and be a family man. You've got to look after the kids. You've got to pay the mortgage. You've got to do it. It's so hard to go, this ain't this. I'm really, really struggling here. I really am. But when you do that, I found when I did that anyway, that the love, you almost get taken down. Which I was a little bit worried about. I was like, you're so high, with the business doing great, you get taken down, and there's so much brilliance in that, though. I was so fearful of it. Like, how am I going to be? I couldn't go and work for someone. I'm the boss. There's so much when you get taken down. It's beautiful because you can build yourself back up. And also you learn so much, and you've got the people around you who love you. So if there is anyone listening who's thinking, I might be able to relate. I'm struggling. Who can I turn to? You've got family, you've got your wife, your partner, whatever. You've got even your kids. Obviously, your kids, you want to speak a lot about things, but just take moments to really care for yourself and remember who's there, because there's a lot of good people in this world. As much as whatever's going on out there, there's a lot of good, nice people out there.
Yeah, willing you to do well.
Yes, absolutely.
Alex, we're gonna wrap this up soon, mate. What's the future looking like for you, pal?
Yeah, mate, the future is looking good. So obviously, I'm trying to find out whether obviously liquidation is going on, but I'm fortunate because my wife had a shop as well, so we kind of just got living off that, really. That her business, it's not, it's obviously it's a complicated time, but that's seen us through. But like as Chris said, you can't, there's nothing stopping you starting again, so I've got some I've got some things coming up, like sites, couple of a new brand that I'm building myself, and there's things I'm doing now that I never would have even thought to do. I'm starting, funnily enough, I was thinking about starting my own podcast as well. Already written with my written subjects of 14 or 15 different potential topics, not just about this, all manner of
I think we could have potentially hit some technical difficulties here with Alex. Alex, you paused, mate. I think we've potentially just lost Alex, but still, we've had a really good natter, and again, directors. He touched upon it before. That if it resonates what he said, you know what he was talking about, pick up the phone and speak to people. You know, if it's affecting you personally, there's numbers out there that you can call. At the same time, you feel free to call us at any time, and we'll give the best advice that's tailored to yourself. Thank you very much for listening, Alex. He's gone. We've lost him, but thank you, mate, for coming on and sharing your story with us, mate.